Donald Trump is starting to completely lose his mind over the fact that he is not getting the reaction he wanted from sending federal troops to roam around Washington, D.C. looking for crime that doesn't exist. See, Donald Trump thought, much like George W. Bush did with Iraq, that we would be greeted as liberators. Remember when George W. Bush said that? We'll be greeted as liberators. But it turns out nobody wanted them there. And nobody wants Donald Trump's federal troops going house to house harassing people, which we have seen on video. So Donald Trump is getting angry. And he's mad that people are talking about the real crime statistics that show that DC is actually safer than it's been in the last 30 years. So Trump is trying to gaslight the country into believing in the same fantasy world that he believes in. Here is what Donald Trump said on social media. Washington, D.C. has one of the highest rates of crime in the world, more than many of the most violent third world countries. He said the homicide rate's higher than Mexico City, Bogota, Islamabad, Addis Ababa, and Fallujah. If D.C. were a state, it would have the highest homicide rate of any state in America. The violent crime rate in D.C. has worsened and the murder rate has essentially doubled in just over a decade. But these are only the official statistics released by corrupt city officials. The real numbers are many times worse. Right? Not the real numbers that we have, the real numbers that apparently only he gets to see. Right? So I don't know who Donald Trump has feeding him these so-called real numbers, but it's not the numbers that are actually put together by the people in charge of the city, which is actually the only place where the numbers come from. So if they don't come from the city, they don't exist. So Trump is basically trying to hoodwink you into not understanding the fact that he's just making this up. But he continued, because the Democrat government of D.C. has largely stopped investigating, arresting, and prosecuting most crime, the published statistics don't even capture a fraction of the actual violence. He said they've stopped arresting people for shoplifting, schools are dysfunctional, youth gangs are out of control, and he alleged that citizens no longer walked the streets, essentially becoming captive prisoners in their own city. Citizens are afraid to speak up or call the police lest they be targeted. The real crime rates are probably 5 to 10 times what has been reported. DC's been under siege from thugs and killers, but now DC is back under federal control where it belongs. The White House is in charge. The military and our great police will liberate this city, scrape away the filth, and make it safe, clean, habitable, and beautiful once more. In other words, pay no attention to the fascists controlling your life now. Pretend that you don't leave your house if you live in Washington, D.C., right? That's what he's telling you to do. People in Washington, D.C., the ones that actually live there, not just the conservative bloggers or podcasters who claim like, I once went to D.C. and saw 8 people murdered while I was still on the plane. No. The people who live in D.C., is it true that you haven't left your house? That you're effectively a captive prisoner? People who are victims of crime, is it true that you do not call the police because now then you're afraid you'll be targeted by the police? Are those actual things that have happened? People in DC, please tell me so that we can verify whether or not what Trump is saying is true. Well, we actually don't even need that because we know that's not true. My nephew lives in DC, right? He's 21 years old. He's having the time of his life. He walks around that city. He's never been the victim of crime. Again, not to say crime doesn't exist, because it does exist everywhere. But this is total BS. He is quite literally gaslighting the nation into believing things that we can see and feel are not real. All to justify his authoritarian takeover of Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. is just the first step. It will spread. There will be more of this across the country. And at that point, those of you who thought, this is great that it's happening in D.C., it's crime-ridden hellhole. Yeah, let's see how you feel when the troops are marching down your street, when you truly do become too afraid to step out of your door. Then we'll see how you like it. Thanks for watching, everyone. You know, we're inching closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, and we're aiming to hit that goal before the year closes. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us as we head towards this huge milestone.